All right, Letitia, thanks you so much for being on the podcast. I'm so excited to have a conversation with you.
It's my pleasure. As you know, we go way back, so
We
it's
go way
good to
back.
do
But I
that.
just I just read your book and I feel like, oh my gosh, there's so many things about you I didn't know that I
Oh,
learned.
uh-huh.
And I don't know how you even have time to sleep or eat or you are so accomplished and do
Thank
so
you.
much. And I think our listeners are going to learn a lot from you.
I I look forward to that. And really, it's because I'm not unlike many other women that I wrote these two books because many of us wear so many hats. And so we just find time to do the things that we need to do. But my message in both books is to try to do the things that you want to do and try to do the things that, give you purpose and fulfill your own, goals, because sometimes we lose that as
Oh, I
professional
know.
women. Mhm.
I know because we're often so focused on what everybody else needs
Exactly.
that we
Yeah.
forget what we need and we want. But before we dive into the big
Okay.
conversation, there's so many things I want to talk about. Tell our listeners who you are, the college you work at, and a little bit about your books.
So my name is Letitia Clark. I work for the South Orange County Community College District as their Chief Communications Officer. I've been here for about 5 years. Uh, Prior to coming to this district, I served at the Coast Community College District. So I've been in higher ed for almost 10 years now. And before that, I did a small stint with the American Academy of Pediatrics as their executive director here in Orange County. And that was my entry back into California because I attended undergraduate school in Louisiana and studied political science and then stayed there for almost a little over a decade, um, and went through Hurricane Katrina and everything there. And so I had my time as a Southerner down in Louisiana and New Orleans, but had a really good, several great lived experiences there. Um, but yeah, so higher ed is my home now, and I'm so happy to be down here in South County.
And besides serving as the district director of communications, you're also an elected official.
That's right. So I've been serving on the Tustin City Council here in Orange County for almost 8 years. I got elected in 2016, served as mayor in 2021, in the heart, the middle of a global pandemic, the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, um, amidst API hate in the community. And I was a new mom again, so was mayor while pregnant and had my third child. It just sounds crazy when I even say it. And I released a children's book in while serving as mayor in 2021 called "Mommy is the Mayor." Uh, and so it's a kids book all about what a mayor does in their community, and wanted to ensure that I got to memorialize that time as mayor because uh, people in my community definitely weren't used to seeing a Black woman, serve in that executive role at the city level. It hasn't been many in Orange County either. And also, I really noticed that my kids didn't really understand what mommy did all day. And so they knew I did, certain things, but they didn't understand everything around our city I had a hand in making decisions on behalf of not only them, but our entire community. So I really wanted to put that in book form. It's been a great success. And I got so many comments from moms, almost very identical to the question you just asked. How are you doing this all? How, can I try to do a piece of this? And I realized, we have so much power in what we already bring to the table. And I wanted to kind of articulate that as well and release my second book this year, Baby's Room to the Boardroom, which is all about how there's so much intersectionality between what we do as women and moms and what we bring to the workplace. And if we slow down a little bit, we can merge, those skills very uniquely and efficiently. So those are the two books.
Yeah, so The Mommy is Mayor is adorable.
Thank
And
you.
I love that you have, so you're the mom of two twins, and
Mhm.
they're in the book,
Yeah.
and they're with you, and they're like
Uh-huh.
knocking on doors and they're making phone calls. And I saw how that theme then carried across immediately into your new book, which I loved, that we don't need to separate ourselves as moms and women from the job we do.
Right.
And I think that at least women from our generation were taught that you've got like home mom
Mm-hmm.
and work person. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually had a boss who I decided that we weren't good personality fits. I actually had a boss tell me that she never wanted to hear about my home life and to never bring it to work.
Wow.
Yeah, and because I had given her some advice coming from a mom, and I
Oh,
said, as a parent,
right.
I feel that this decision we were making on behalf of children
Mm-hmm.
um, was not the right decision. And she said, Cheryl, I never want to hear your opinion as a mom.
Wow. 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 Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm like, I think I'm bringing value.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Right.
And
Right.
so I really loved that point of your book. We do have value as moms,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Mm-hmm.
can bring that to the table.
Yeah. About coming from a generation that, gave us certain messages. I got the message that you can do it all, right? Which sounds like a very empowering message, but I wasn't necessarily given the tools to quote unquote do it all. And so it just felt like I was always taking more on, and then that was revered as a badge of honor, and not really taught to work, smarter versus harder, but feeling like I had to be everything in these different roles. And yeah, I struggled throughout my career and feeling like like just like you said, I have to be one person at work, one person at home, not merge the two, not talk about, my family at work, not be on my phone at home, and all those conflicting messages. But it's really when I became a single mom that out of necessity, I had to bring my kids certain places if I wanted to attend these community meetings or be a part of, things that, I had a burning desire to be a part of. They had to come along with me. And then what I saw was, oh, they're starting to absorb some of this information. They're starting to learn how to kind of, behave or how to conduct themselves in a professional setting, and in some ways, rather than kind of shielding that from them and feeling like they can't ever come with me to a meeting. But just so many lessons that I've learned as a mother, I translate that all the time. Being more empathetic, using real life experiences to convey, on how to teach someone something, versus just telling them. What did we learn that with our kids? Our kids have to see us do something and kind of hear from our own experiences in order to really learn it. But yeah, there's so many things that we take for granted, and most importantly, I think moms have to give themselves more credit than we do. Often, if they stay out of the workforce, they think, well, I don't have anything to bring to the table. I've had all these years where I didn't work in a corporate setting or whatnot. And so my message is, you have so much to bring to the table. You just have to figure out a way how to, tell that story and translate those skills to another environment.
Yeah. I actually circled your part of your introduction because I loved this message, and you said, in fact, one of the greatest lessons that I've learned is that I don't have to separate the woman I am as a mom from the woman I am as a professional. The
Mhm.
two can coexist in the same space.
Yeah.
And I
For
thought
sure.
that is, I mean, if we can embrace that, what a great place the workplace would be. Like, I
Yeah.
want to hear funny stories about your kids. I want you to bring empathy. I want to know when you're running late or you can't,
Mhm.
you need more time or you have a doctor's appointment. Like, I don't understand. I think maybe our workplace was set up for dads who worked and moms who stayed home. And now
Yeah.
everybody's working, right? Moms
Right.
and dads. And we need a
Right.
little bit more compassion and space for that.
Yeah. And we're both sharing responsibilities in both places. And no, you're totally right, and just kind of being able to relate to that. And my heart breaks for you for the boss that you had at one point, because I know I've had, maybe non-empathetic bosses before. And so, you know, luckily I've had a lot of women who have actually had babies while I've served as their supervisor. And I just try to make a concerted effort to be extremely understanding, to not make it hard to ask for time off, to not make them feel like, oh, I have another doctor's appointment that I have to go to, and I have another, I'm not feeling great today, and but making it a very safe space for them to just talk about their experience and not make this one more level of stress, that on top of everything else. So yeah, it is important to be able to bring our whole selves. And I think the narrative is changing, the environment is changing, where we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly on college campuses, where we are more welcoming and inviting of people bringing their entire selves to work, and talking about, healing and getting through trauma that we went through our personal lives, so we don't bring that, to work as well. So I think there's a deeper and a more welcoming conversation about bringing your whole self, to the places that you frequent, especially work, where we're spending, the majority of our day. So I think that the narrative is changing, thankfully, for a more holistic environment.
Well, I think you're 100%. I was just reflecting as you were talking about me as a supervisor and how can I be a more understanding supervisor to individuals who struggle with things outside of work. And I don't know
Yeah.
if you have any tips. You have such great tips for women that I want to talk about in a minute. You have such great tips for women who are looking to take the next step in their career.
Mm.
But what about for supervisors? Like, how can we be more supportive of other women and other parents? What can we do?
Yeah. Sometimes I think about my sorority days and kind of how you it's not hazing, but it's, like a like initiation, right? You go through, and it can be tough, and then when you get to the other side, sometimes you forget, or you feel like, well, I had to go through it, so the next wave of people, they're going to have to go through the same thing. Sometimes I think we do that at work. We forget, how hard it is to transition to a new job. We forget how hard it is to transition from staff level to a supervisor level, or not have someone support your ambition or your dreams to promote, to not kind of help you through tough conversations around salary and just upward mobility. And so I try to remember those times so that I can be that support to my staff, as a supervisor. So I try not to um, just be present in the space I'm in now and forget those lessons that I've learned, essentially letting them go through the initiation, and not kind of helping them through it. But I see that a lot, particularly in older women, who have, they're kind of done with raising kids, or maybe they haven't had a family, and they're just like, I'm past that stage of worrying about that. So I'm not going to, make that my biggest concern for, other people that I'm managing. So I feel like it's just being present with what those struggles were, and making small but consistent, uh, just paying attention to those little things, and those little kind acts of attention and, care, I think make a difference in the holistic, part of someone's experience at work.
I agree. I agree 100% because we're all people at the end of the day, right? We're not all
Yeah.
robots. We're not workers.
We kind of
One
forget
of
that.
your, yeah, one of your chapters is called Information Overload, Quality versus Quantity.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to ask you a little bit about that chapter and how you set your book up. But first, I want to share with you a story about my kid because I don't, well, you can't see it on the Zoom, but if I come in and out a little bit, you can see for the
Yeah.
people watching on YouTube. But I have this new tablet called Remarkable. It's amazing. If
Wow.
you're a certain age and you love to take notes, it's a tablet where it feels like you're writing and you can like make
Yeah.
PDFs. So I made notes all through your book, and then I just noticed my younger son wrote me from Jackson, Mom is the best mom in the world. Oh. And then he also wrote the
Yes.
word poop just to punctuate that.
I
So,
mean, can I capture that and put that in
yes.
the, man, that is so good.
Oh, it's so cute. From Jackson and then poop. So I'll send it to you as a
Oh my gosh,
testimonial of the
yes,
power of
I
your book.
love it. That is so, just quintessential to the mom experience, right?
Yes, 100%. So the way that your book is structured, because it's called Baby's Room and the Boardroom, right? That's baby's,
To the
not Baby's
boardroom.
Room to the Boardroom, but Baby's Room.
Yeah, kind of like from the baby's room to the boardroom, how to
Yes.
merge these lessons together. Yeah.
So you start each chapter, which the chapters are great because they're like you can read them in like 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
which I really appreciate it. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
she's actually structuring a book for working moms.
Exactly. Right.
But you start with a great story about your children, and then you move on and you apply it to a lesson at work.
Mhm.
So I really loved the format of the book.
Thank you.
And you talk a lot about people being around people who can encourage you and motivate you.
Yeah.
And I like to call that your tribe. Uh,
Hmm.
but tell us a little bit about how important it is to have the right people surrounding you.
Yeah, I often, if I speak somewhere, a lot for my elected role, people will ask me what advice do you have, or if you could go back, 20 years, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? And often part of that is, I usually say two things. One, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Realize that you're going to be in a lot of uncomfortable spaces in your life, and if you start, you know, kind of grappling with that and then getting past the fear, you will accomplish things that you never, knew you were capable of. And two, find people and start getting almost require that you have people who speak life, who speak positively around you. And particularly when I was running for office, there were so many negative responses, including from my family, people putting their fears on me of, this sounds like a scary thing to do. I don't want you to be in a, scary environment. So out of love, putting a lot of fear onto me, a lot of doubt. And then just people who are very, and that's the political arena where critical of the way I looked, the way I sounded, the way I dressed, what they saw on TV, and that it wasn't the same as the image that I portrayed. And so just getting a lot of negative responses about what I was capable of doing. And so what I really remembered were the people who said, of course you can do it. Of course, why wouldn't you? And I'm going to be right here to support you every step of the way. So even when my internal, doubts were starting to bubble to the top, having people around me to say, no, keep going. You got this. I know today's a hard day. Go knock on 5 more doors, go make 10 more phone calls, go. And so that actually got me to the finish line. Had I not had that positive, those affirmations, people to speak life into the dreams that I already proclaimed, then they just would not have been accomplished. And so if we do that in every part of our lives, then we really will achieve what we set out to do. But even something as simple as just, being a good parent, being a good employee, if we don't have people who think, but it really is like a mindset. You have to have people around you that actually think positively, and that's the only way they're going to speak that on a regular basis. But just finding people who are not naysayers, finding optimistic people, finding people who are dreamers, people that want to put things into action. And so if that, and then that energy just kind of attracts each other, and then you'll find that a lot of folks around you, kind of have those same sentiments.
Yeah, that is so true. I know when I started my company,
Mhm.
um, my mom, and I love her, and she's a working mom. She was like, "You're crazy. This is crazy. You're quitting a job, and
Yeah,
you're both quitting your jobs." Like my husband quit his year, but what do you do? And but then I talked to other people who were like, "You're gonna crush this. Like, just
yeah,
do it. Like, you're gonna crush."
right.
And I had to really grapple. And then at the end of the day, you do have to trust your own instinct.
Yeah.
You get
Mm-hmm.
you get the advice, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna believe in myself.
Yeah. And then the story in the book, I just remember when I was having twins, no one had good advice for me.
Oh my God, I laughed so hard when you said what, like you Googled having twins, and it was like you started reading an article about conjoined twins.
Right. I'm like, they're gonna have 5 arms, they're gonna have 3 eyes. And I'm just like, oh my God, I had to like throw those books away. And so and then I realized that what I was so nervous about was, things like breastfeeding and things that women struggle with, but so many things just kind of kicked into to play. And so I had to realize as human beings, as women, and then eventually as mothers, there's so much that we, kind of just learn along the way. And we don't give ourselves grace that I'll figure it out. And we don't do that in our careers either. We feel like we have to have every training, read every book, get 2 more degrees before you can, step foot into this role that you're seeking, and not giving ourselves some grace that, you can learn on the job, you can learn as you go.
Well,
Um,
I want to bring up a study I read that's really relevant to that. But first, I'm going to
mhm.
take a quick break so we can listen to our sponsor. How do higher education decision makers find the right solution when technology evolves at light speed? Well, we usually start with our network. EdTech Connect is the network that's democratizing the higher ed technology conversation. EdTech Connect is free, so anyone with a .edu email address can sign up and list the software and services they use in their role at their school. Once you're in, you can find out what solutions similar schools are doing all over the country. Whether you're looking to find the hot new AI tool, or maybe learn options you have to upgrade your campus search engine, or even get to your short list of marketing solution vendors, EdTech Connect is the place to go. So visit edtechconnect.com and set up your free profile to get a pulse for what's happening with higher ed technology today. All right, we're back. So before the break, we were talking about believing in yourself, right?
Yeah.
And giving yourself grace. And something that stuck in me that I was guilty of in my career, especially early on, was that a lot of women won't put themselves in positions to advance because they feel like they need to get that degree, or they
Right.
need to have more experience, or
Yeah.
I'm not going to run for mayor because I've never been a school board member, or maybe I should start
Hmm.
smaller. Where a man is like, no problem,
Why
I'm
not me?
qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got this.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I've
Yep.
never done it, but I can figure it out.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so we can be our own worst enemy because we doubt our own innate abilities.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse. And one, we are so thoughtful about, doing things and seeing how it impacts our lives, others. And I think that's part of the hesitancy that doesn't allow us to, it's kind of like a mama bear type trait that we have to make sure the coast is clear before we enter into danger, right? So it's a good trait, but also, yeah, it definitely keeps us from just stepping into these roles. For elected women, in politics, women on average have to be asked 7 times to run for office before they'll even consider it. Versus there's almost no data on how many times a man has to be asked. He usually just
They don't even
comes
have
up
to
with
be
the
asked.
idea himself.
They just wake up and they're like, well, I'm going to do
Yeah,
this.
they're like, I feel like I'm going to be a senator, so let's do this.
But you know what? This is really great as a supervisor too. What a great statistic, because if you see something in someone else, maybe you need to ask more than
Yeah,
once.
yeah,
Don't just take the first no or I'll think about it, but
yeah,
continue to build them up, continue
right.
to ask.
And maybe ask, period. Don't wait, just don't assume that someone is, has reached their potential or doesn't have any ambition, particularly women have to be asked, have you considered, being a manager? What is it that you would like to do? And some, as a female supervisor, maybe those are things that we can incorporate in,
Yeah.
as far as asking our employees, what have you thought about? What would you like to do? And so I think that's really important.
Yeah, and just asking the question is can be enough to start
Yeah,
somebody down a path or
right.
and showing that you care.
Wow, somebody sees this in me that I didn't maybe see in myself before.
Yeah. And
hmm
that's our role, I think, as leaders is,
Yeah,
we set the tone, we set the culture, but we also empower people to want to be their best selves, maybe
right.
to reach for more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then another portion of your book is a little bit more selfish,
Mhm.
which is something that we women don't do enough about, and that's celebrating yourself.
Yeah.
Like we don't celebrate our own wins a lot of time because we're so busy doing on to the next thing.
Yeah. We don't celebrate hardly anything. I mean, think about when somebody compliments you on your hair or your outfit, and you're like, "Oh, I got it at TJ Maxx." Like
Right?
don't think it's like special. Like it's
Oh, this
discount.
necklace, I
It's
just spent $10 on that.
yeah.
$10.
We don't celebrate a lot of things. And over time that becomes, a habit. And then that flows into your self-talk. And then it flows into, what you're willing to try to pursue, in your life. So we have to be careful with those small, moments of not celebrating and overlooking, because doing a little bit of that can go a long way and kind of propel you in ways that I think are beyond our own, you know, capacity.
Yeah, and you talk about self-evaluations as a supervisor, we have to evaluate, and that a lot of people hate self-evaluations. But you and I have a lot in common, but this was
Yeah.
one thing is I loved my self-evaluation because I don't do them on myself now since I'm in the company, but when I did
Yeah.
it at college, my supervisor made me write my list of accomplishments for the year. And when you sit down and think about what you've done over a year,
Yeah.
it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
I did all that. Like that was a lot. Like,
Yeah.
and those were some really cool things. But you're
Mm,
so caught up in the doing
right.
that you need to take a step back to see what you've actually accomplished and then celebrate it.
And we just live in a culture where it's like more, 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 that's
Yeah.
that's just what we're in. And so if you don't take that time for yourself to just, hey, yeah, I actually am very proud of the things that have happened, and maybe I'll take a vacation, maybe I'll
Yeah.
rest a little bit, after this quarter or something. Mhm.
Yeah, maybe I'll open that bottle of champagne.
Uh-huh.
Well, your book has lots of lessons. I think how many? 30? I don't have the table of contents.
20 something. Yeah, I
20
think
something.
5. Yeah.
Is there one that you particularly want to share or a story that you love the most in your book?
One that kind of made me laugh over and over again was the one about my son wanting to become a medieval times knight. And I just remember my kids loved medieval times, so we would go and and so my son would have this DVD that we got from the show, and he would watch it over and over again. And so one day, I was asking them like, what do you guys want to be? And my daughter was always like, an architect, and I was like, yeah, yeah, that's good. My son was like, well, I want to be a knight. And I'm like, well, you can't do that. And he was like, well, why not? And so for a long time, I thought he was talking about, a real knight in the medieval, period. But then he was like, no, I want to be a knight at the medieval times place. And I'm like, oh, well, that is a real job, it's somebody's job, but I don't want it to be your job. I want you to do something more than that. And what I was doing over time was literally dimming his light every time I was like, no, not that. No, not that. Do something else. Dream something else. Have a better dream than what you're talking about. And I really just should have entertained it and dreamed with him about how cool that would be. because he did obviously grow out of that, over time. But what did it cost me, to just do that with him? And realizing that we send those messages so early, in our kids. And so it's literally just about what we just talked about, speaking positively, allowing, and I realized that as a parent, what I was doing with my child, that I've experienced the same things, over and over again in my adult life. And so what could I be doing for my employees? What could I be doing for other people in my life? Just learning to catch myself when I'm so ready to shut someone's idea down or their dreams down. And knowing that I don't want that to happen to me, so I shouldn't do it to others. And then definitely learning that lesson with my kids, and kind of realizing much later. But I just remember at the time it made me laugh when I was writing it, but also sad. And he probably doesn't, remember all the times that he expressed that he wanted to do this. But
Oh,
again, just a real lesson that if we pause for a second, we're like, oh yeah, that should change.
well, and this is the beauty of your book. I mean, these are the moments in parenting that make you realize something that you can bring to work to help others. And
Right.
I think that's
Mhm.
the beauty of the whole theme.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
not missing it, right? And then if we are committed to not separating those parts of our lives, then that lesson will actually do some good, because you'll be able to learn from it and then, impact others in a positive way.
100%. Well, I loved your book. I want to ask you one more question, but before I do, for those listeners who are looking to buy either books,
Okay.
the children's book or this new one, how do they do that?
So both books are available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, Walmart, all available everywhere you can buy a book online. Amazon will probably get you the copy the fastest. And then feel free to reach out. I'm on all social media platforms. If you'd like a signed copy, I can send you kind of like a sticker insert, and then you can put it in the book, and I'll do that, free of charge. But appreciate the support. I have a book signing coming up in Orange County at the new Barnes and Noble location in Tustin, and that's going to be on November 4th. So
Ooh,
anybody in the area,
maybe
feel
I'll
free.
put that on my calendar.
Okay, I'll be there
Good.
12 to 3 p.m. on Saturday, November.
3 p.m. Okay. If I'm
From
not on a
the
soccer field, I will be
Okay,
coming
yeah,
up.
trust me, I understand.
So you have this really great at the end of the book, you have like a journal and reflection place for moms to be able or parents. I mean, really your book is for parents. And even non-parents, frankly, can learn
Mhm.
a lot from this. And you have some reflection questions. And you have a question there, I'm like, I gotta ask her this one because you've got teenage twins. Right? You have a younger child, a marriage. You run communications for a very large community college district. You're on city council. You're an author. You're put together. You're beautiful. And so this question, I literally circled it, and I'm like, ask Letitia, how do you recharge? How do you do it? How do you find time for recharging? And what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of working on this, right? But what I've tried to do, and it sounds like I'm doing a lot of things, but I've learned to do things that I enjoy, even if it sounds like work for other people. So when I'm doing my city council stuff, some days I'm like, there's literally no other place I'd rather be than to be doing what I'm doing right now. Um, Seeing that there's a legacy being left, seeing that I'm able to, people remember not what I did, but how I made them feel, being able to interact with folks that I never would have come across their path. I really enjoy that. And there's so many parts of my life that provide that. I mean, in our communication spaces, in my elected role, I meet people that I know for sure if I was not in this role, I would have never met them. And so I get so much joy out of doing that. But I mean, just personally, I like I like being by the water. We live here right here in Orange County. I like to go to the beach. I'm a Pisces, so the water's always kind of calling me. And so I find moments to just be by myself and be near the water. I take sunrise walks. There's nobody, at the beach. And so I know everyone doesn't have that same luxury, but if there's and then I try not to make it hard on myself to do that. So I try not to worry about mom guilt and leaving the kids for a few hours and giving my husband a bunch of, okay, this is this and this is, having all these things in place. I just try to go and not worry about what's going on at home or work. But those moments can be fleeting if I don't, if I'm not intentional about doing that. Even the books, writing is very cathartic for me. So I already enjoy doing it, and so I've just found a way to kind of put it put it into a package, to help other folks. But I enjoy writing, so I just try to do the things that I enjoy, and not make a lot of excuses for doing that. I know so many women who put all of the things that they like to do on the back burner for everyone else in their lives. And so then work is a chore, family is a chore, everything in their life is a burden versus something that they find, moments of joy in. So that's how I kind of stick, keep the charge going, so to speak.
Great. Well, so many great lessons. It's been so much fun talking to you.
Yeah.
And yeah, anybody interested in the book, it's called Baby's Room to the Boardroom by Letitia Clark. And like she said, it's available anywhere you buy books. Uh, and yeah, it's just been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you. Always great to talk with you.